Good afternoon, morning, evening, or night, whatever your time zone or time of day, my lovely gamers. I am the Totally Pro Gamer, and this is a story of my first CEDH tournament. On Saturday, August 15th, I went and played at the Lifelink Games $1,000 CEDH tournament with 36 other participants. Since this is my first video of this format, I'm going to give a brief overview of the deck I played and the structure of the event, and then I'll get into the 5 rounds of gameplay where I actually played. I'll do my best to recall how each round went, highlighting what went well, what didn't go well, and what I learned that I could use to improve this experience. Let's begin. The tournament was structured with 5 rounds of Swiss games, each 80 minutes in length with a 20-minute overtime period that ended in a draw, using pseudo-random seeding to make sure nobody played the same player twice. Wins were worth 5 points, draws were worth 1 point, and losses were worth 0 points. At the end of these 5 rounds, whoever was in the top 10 made it to top cut. The first and second seed got a bye for the finals, and the bottom 8 of the top 10 played games to determine who the third and fourth seats were. My deck of choice for this tournament was Atali, Primal Conqueror, a turbo deck in red and green that wants to play the big dinosaur as much as possible, as fast as possible. It's simple, it's fun, and I have a blast every time I play this deck. My deck may not be the most optimized, but with a 30 proxy limit, I had to make some concessions for cards that I actually owned over cards that were considered better. The full deck list that I played is linked down in the description below, as well as the Moxfield link to the current deck I'm playing, which I've made some tweaks to since the tournament. For round 1, I was in seat 3 playing against a Derevi, a Magda, and a Rograk Ishai pod. In terms of mulligans, it went about as well as one could expect. I didn't have to get super low before I saw a turn 2 Atali attempt in my hand. And despite my Jessica's Will getting countered, I had a Treasonous Ogre so I could try again on turn 4. Unfortunately, that was just enough time for the Magda player to tutor out a Torpor Orb and completely shut off my game plan, followed by the Derevi player resolving a Teferi, Time Raveler, meaning that even if I could get the Torpor Orb off the field, I wouldn't be able to cast any of the spells from my Atali flips. At that point, there wasn't much I could do, and I lost that round. A big takeaway I took from that game is that it isn't always necessarily ideal to remove pieces that I find inconvenient or potentially troublesome when I can instead make deals in my favor. If I had to identify one point where I probably misplayed, I would say it was just before turn 4. The Rog Shy player had a Rhystic Study in play that I chose to destroy by channeling Boseiju Who Endures so I could cast my Worldly Tutor without allowing the draw. Thinking that I wanted to minimize the odds of said Rog Shy pilot having a Mindbreak trap in hand. What I didn't account for was the amount of interaction that may have been desirable for interacting with the other decks in the pod, which I could have noticed and negotiated for a little bit harder. The Rog Shy pilot, after the game, also agreed we both could have made improvements in that moment of the game, and we both learned from it moving forward into round 2 was genuinely the best pod that an Atali player wants. I was seat 2 playing against Magda, the Great Goblin, and Chatterfang. No white, no blue, nothing to slow me down. My first 7 cards was loaded full of mana, which led to a turn 2 Atali and no responses. From the Great Goblin player, I hit Necropotence, which allowed me to refill my hand and see a Food Chain, Worldly Tutor, and Jessica's Will. And the Chatterfang hit Supportive Parents, allowing me to tap for a green on the Magda's end step so I could find Squee the Immortal, leading to a turn 3 victory in only 15 minutes of gameplay. From the luck to the actual gameplay, that round could not have gone better for me. This round was a very interesting matchup. I was seat 3 playing against a Tyum, an Emery, and Nick Fury. Out the gate, I knew it would be a rough time for me, as the Emery landed a turn 1 Vexing Bauble, followed by the Tyum resolving a turn 2 Deafening Silence, effectively locking both myself and the Nick Fury out from the game entirely. Eventually, as the time for the round to end drew near, the table made a deal where the Emery would sacrifice the Vexing Bauble and allow me to push for a win, contingent that should I enter a winning game state, we all accept a draw. Unfortunately, I didn't get the hits I needed off of Atali, partly because of a Ranger Captain of Eos activation from the time, which ultimately resulted in a long time turn that stalled out. So when the turn came back to Emery, we took the draw and we moved on to round 4 was a rough show. I was seat 3 again, playing against Hashaton, Crystal, and Kinnet. After mulliganing down to only 4 cards in hand, I was in a tight spot to play from the start. The game played very uneventfully until the Kinnet player flipped into Seedborn Muse and Hullbreaker Horror, at which point the game was decidedly over. Between this round and round 5, I think I really need to work on my mulligans, deciding what to keep, what to pass. Going to 3 cards is risky, but it's not the end of the world for an Atali deck. I think I was just too timid to go for it because I was nervous about having to keep going after that, which is something that I really just need to practice more. Round 5, the final round of Swiss, was another pretty rough game for me. I was playing seat 2 against a Rogsai, a Timnachron Blue Farm, and another Tyum, with another mulligan to a disappointing 4 cards. There was little I could do that game, as the Blue Farm player ran a turn 2 Intuition into an Imperial Seal or a main phase Vampiric Tutor. I can't remember which, but they are the same in this story, winning on turn 3 after a lucky draw from an Esper Sentinel. I simply didn't have the time I needed to build a board with my starting hand, which is unfortunate, but it's just how the game goes sometimes. As with round 4, my biggest takeaway was that I needed to work on my mulligans to prepare for the next time I play in a tournament. Unfortunately, I did not make the top cut. I missed out by 1 win. Still, I'm very pleased with my performance in this tournament, and I had a great time. I'm very excited to play again as soon as I can. I hear there will be more tournaments in this local area, so I'm keeping an eye out to see what opportunities there are, and when I'll get another chance to play my favorite CEDH deck. I know this is kind of a short story to cover it, but I didn't get much farther, so there's nothing more to say. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you listening to my story, and I hope to have another one for you very soon. To all my lovely gamers out there, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.